in the live stream because I'm a professional in the live stream. Starting the live stream back, was live for like 20 seconds, didn't do something right, needed to do better, so started over in the live stream, and it's great. Everything is great in the live stream. In the live stream. All is well in the live stream. We're doing fantastic. Talking about the gods and the not gods and the theisms and the atheisms and the whatnots and the yeah and the things and the stuffs and the things and the stuffs and the yeah. Is there a God? Is there not a God? Are we all destined to go to hell? Why? Why does hell seem like it's the default option? What's going on? You know, what's going on in the live stream? In the live stream. Doing the stuff in the live stream. Trying to mess with my phone while a million notifications pop up on the live stream because I'm just that professional in the live stream. In the live stream. In the live stream, doing the stuffs and the things in the live stream. Heaven and hell are apparently our options. Why? Why are there only two options? Why is the option love me or suffer forever? Why is everyone seeming to be on the conveyor belt to hell that only God can save them from if we bow down and worship him? That doesn't seem right. In the live stream and outside of the live stream. It just kind of doesn't seem right in general, but I mean, who am I to question the all-powerful almighty God, except for, you know, one of his pawns that are going to end up getting fucked over in the lake of fire. You know, I feel like as one of his victims, I do have some kind of right to just be like, hey, you know what, like, maybe not, you know? It's like, maybe we need to rethink this. Maybe this isn't a great idea. Maybe it kind of sucks that we all seem to be on some kind of conveyor belt destined for hell. Like, that's the default option. Is hell. Is going to hell. Ending up in hell. These notifications are overstimulating me in the live stream. But it's fine because we're in the live stream. Actually, there's a little bit of deepness to that. It's fine because we're in the live stream, because I do love doing these live streams. They do make me feel better, and I do enjoy doing them. So things do be more fine when they are within the confines of the live stream. Things are a little bit better when you're doing something that you love, you know? When you're just having fun, enjoying it, doing something that you're passionate about. But that's not what we're here to talk about. God has us all on a conveyor belt, apparently, according to Christianity, it would seem. Heading to hell. And he can save us. He can pluck us off that conveyor belt, but we have to bow down and worship him and submit our everything to him. And if we don't, he's just going to leave us on this conveyor belt until we process into the default location of hell. Because God seems to have this love me or suffer for all of eternity type of mindset that I just don't agree with. I just think is a little bit messed up. I think isn't how we should be operating things. I think there should be some kind of middle ground, you know, perhaps for good people who don't want to bow down to God. You know, it's, I don't know. I like to bring up the analogy. I have a daughter. If she grows up and doesn't like me or wants nothing to do with me, I'm not going to make it my mission to make sure she suffers for all of eternity. I'm still going to want her to be happy with or without me. So if I can have that love for my daughter, why can't this all-powerful, all-loving being have the same love for us, his children? Where even if we reject him, even if we still want to be good people and we're still good people, we just go to hell, suffer for all of eternity, because you said you don't like me. Therefore, you have to suffer and burn for all of eternity. The disciples said, tell us how our end will be, Jesus. Jesus said, have you already discovered the beginning that you are now asking about the end? For where the beginning is, there the end will be too. Great. Care to explain that scripture? Do you want anything else, or did you just like drop a scripture and like try to drop knowledge? Maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe you need to open my mind and my heart to the scripture and explain it. You know, we got 7 people in the chat, 6 people in the chat. One of them is me, the other is my wife. So like 4 people. You could educate us on the scripture if you want. Now's your chance. You know, to show me the way, to save me. You know? Because I'm destined for hell, because I don't really like God. Because that's how the God has the system set up. If you don't like me, you're just going to suffer for all of eternity, because F you, I guess. You know? It's just not how with the type of love that I have, you know, sure, being an imperfect, flawed, fallen human being, creature thing, I feel like I can have better love than to torture anyone who doesn't love me back. It just seems like a very odd and bizarre thing for an all-loving God being to do. And I feel like there should be some middle ground. Jesus is saying that the end is not a future event to be predicted, but a present reality to be discovered when you understand when you understand where you truly come from, you already stand at the end. I'm gonna need you to like really, really, really dumb it down for me. Like, talk to me like I am a complete imbecile, because I'm still not quite getting it. To know your origin, God, truth, and divine spark is already to know your destiny, salvation, or fulfillment is not something that happens later in time, but something realized through the now. Well, yeah, our actions now determine, you know, where we end up, I guess. Understanding the end is a return to the beginning. Okay? So we're all on our journey, and you gotta find God now to get to the happy ending. Otherwise, you'll suffer in hell for all of eternity. Because our grand purpose is actually just to bow down to this God being and worship him for the rest of eternity, because he needs that from us. And if we refuse to, we get to suffer. This is from a gospel, not the Bible. What gospel is it from? Where specifically is it from? If I may ask. Because I think there should be, you know, if you don't want to bow down and worship me for all of eternity, I'm not going to give you eternal suffering. I might give eternal suffering for people who really, really deserve it. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe even not. I don't know. But, like, for everyone else who doesn't want to bow down to me but also is a decent person, how about a middle ground, you know? Where you don't have to, you know, be stuck worshiping me and kissing my feet for all of eternity, but you can still be I, you know? I love how the Old Testament has people living past 150 years and people can't get past the lies with faith. Yeah, you know, the Old Testament, you know, it does some things. There's definitely... I mean, I don't know how somebody could give an honest read-through of the Old Testament and not at least get a little bit of a thought of, there's some mythology mixed in here. Like, at least mixed in. You know, you don't have to necessarily agree that the entire thing is mythology. But there's some. You know, it's like there's a little bit. There's a little bit of mythology in there. Especially because, you know, living past 100 is like really downplaying it. You know, people live to be hundreds of years old in the Bible. I would hate to think Jesus died due to folklore. Who's to say, really? Who's to say? I think he died because he pissed off the authority of the time, because he was trying to start his own, movement, which happens, It do be like that sometimes, but I think that's kind of what ended up getting him. But it's fine, because it's all a part of his plan for salvation, because that's how that works. And if you don't accept it, you suffer and burn for all of eternity. Or at least suffer. There's a lot of disagreements as to what exactly hell is, but, I like to at least say the bad ending, Some kind of bad ending, suffering, eternal torture, whatever. So you think he died for running his mouth around the wrong people? It's pretty much what happened, yeah. It's pretty much what happened. In the Bible, at least. Do you disagree? He went around challenging the authority of the time, pissed them off, and he got executed. He caused a stir with the Jewish population and with the Roman population. He caused quite a stir. Now, I might be presenting a slightly watered down version, but I don't think I've said anything inaccurate. There's a cat banging down my door. Hi. Yes. Snickers just coming in. It's like, I'm here. Hello. Snickers. Snickers. My quotes are from the Gospel of Thomas. See, I didn't recognize them from the Bible. I haven't read the Gospel of Thomas. I really need to get on top of my shit. Reality, according to the Gospel of Thomas, is a divine, unified presence already here, obscured by ignorance and revealed through inner awakening, rather than future events or external authority. Reality, according to the Gospel of Thomas, is a divine, unified presence already here, obscured by ignorance, and revealed through inner awakening, rather than future events or external authority. Not bad. Do you know there's people in the world now who can speak telepathically, accurately tell the future, and read minds? Can we demonstrate that? Can we prove that? Peter, Church Spain, he's the last pope in prophecy of popes of Malachi. I have no idea what you're talking about, Starboy. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Our disciples go to their graves violently, never faulting in their faith to Jesus. Have you heard of Heaven's Gate or Jonestown? People do crazy things for people who exist. Hey, can you bat the cat? Can you bat the cat? She's eating your Cheetos. People die for a lot of things and are willing to give their lives and dedicate themselves. Is it actually Cheetos?
Yeah.
I guessed right. Sweet. It was the first thing that my brain spit out. Sorry, people die for all kinds of things, and people can be tricked for all kinds of things. I mean, there are people now who believe that faith healing churches are a real thing, even though many of those have been proven to be scams. We also don't have any verification of what happened to the disciples, especially, like the 12 apostles. We have a couple martyrs in my brain isn't braining. Fucking Stephen and James. We have them. We have a mention of a Herod later on, not the Herod, but a Herod later on, dying for the faith. But that's really it. The rest of the disciples' deaths are through just church history. We don't really have any verifications that they did go and give their lives for this. Even within the Bible, we don't really have verifications of all of the accounts of the Bible. Gospel of Thomas was made way too late. I mean, yeah, there's a reason it's not really considered a part of the canon, but still an interesting thing that I think anyone who takes the study of this stuff seriously should read, and therefore I should absolutely have already read it. Jesus' true message has been twisted by organized religion. Sure. How could we possibly know what his true message is then? So I remember when I became a non-denominational Christian, as part of my deconstruction process, that was one of my things, and just taken from the Bible. I obviously, I haven't read the Gospel of Thomas now, so obviously I didn't read it, 5-7 years ago. But even within the Bible, I became non-denominational Christian because I didn't think any of the denominations really captured what Jesus taught and what he wanted. So yeah, there was a time I would have agreed with you. What's your thoughts on Saul of Tarsus' change of heart? People change their religious beliefs in a number of ways even today. You have Christians becoming atheists, atheists becoming Christians, Christians becoming Muslims, Muslims becoming Christians, Muslims becoming atheists, Jews becoming atheists, Jews becoming Muslims, atheists becoming Hindus, Hindus becoming Christians. You have people have changes of heart all the time. And especially, like I said, we can't really trust the validity of the things presented in the Bible, so we can't really depend on that as like the best source material of what happened. And I wouldn't even say that because it's really like the only source material, but like the best. What's what I'm looking for? Historic record of what happened there. I consider myself an independent Christian. I believe in what Jesus taught, but not a churchian. Fair. But I do want to say that many denominations that we have today began because somebody had a similar mindset that, this denomination that we were part of, or this church, is wrong, therefore we're going to go start our own denomination that's right. And it still ended up being just another bad religion. So I would caution you, who's to say that you're not just another small little denomination? Because there's as many denominations of Christianity as there are Christians. There are thousands of different recognized denominations, and then within each of those denominations there's a bunch of different people, each with their own interpretation, yes, based on the denomination. But it seems like every single Christian you talk to has at least slightly varying idea on what Christianity is and what God wants from us and things like that. And a lot of them, I've been told by a lot of Christians since starting this content, like, oh, well, my version is right. Not mine, but like speaking for them. Like they're saying, my version is right and all these others are wrong. And there's like a list of them, in the comments and in the chats and whatnot that are saying the same thing, but they're disagreeing. So it's like, how do you know have you figured it out? How do you know you figured it out? How do you know you have the right form of Christianity? Are you just doing the same game that's been played for 2,000 years that's gotten us with all these messed up religions? You got to ask yourself those questions. Paul had a change of heart for real, but he was still Jewish man. Him and Jesus were both obviously Jewish, a style of Judaism that believed that the real bodies of people could escape Sheol. Yeah. We know there are powers or laws that govern everything in the universe. Not really like big time order and design. No one can account for it, but they know they can omit the existence of a supernatural being. Why is that? I can't omit shit. The universe works the way that it does, and we don't understand all of that, but just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it has to have been a God. I'm not ruling out a God, but the only logical defaults position on any claim is to not believe it until sufficient evidence has been presented. How are you supposed to believe something if you have no reason to believe it in the first place? So without any good credible evidence for the existence of a God or some kind of higher power, I'm not saying definitively that there isn't one, but why should I believe it? And just because, things are amazing and crazy and how else could it work, that's not evidence for a God. That's just God of the gaps. It's a mindset that's failed us many times throughout human history, especially as throughout history we've attributed many different things to supernatural, magical, divine things. Insect swarms, natural disasters, the sun rising and setting, eclipses, disease, whatever else have you. People used to think that these were direct magical supernatural events, but then we learned more about them and figured out that they're just natural. So, this whole how could it possibly work? We don't know how it could work. Therefore, it has to be a God. It really just doesn't work, and it just kind of doesn't make sense. But I'm not ruling out a God. I would like there to be a God. I would like there to be something else out there. Maybe not any of the gods that have been proposed thus far, but something out there. How did it get here? All by itself? That isn't scientific, and you didn't say supernatural. How did it get here all by itself? That isn't scientific. Yes, it is. Saying you don't know when you don't have an explanation for something is scientific. It's the only scientifically honest answer in this situation. Oh, you didn't say supernatural. Not me. You didn't say you didn't say supernatural. Yes, but you alluded to some kind of divine, greater, higher purpose, it would seem. Unless you intentionally led me astray and are trying to gaslight me. Or perhaps I've just completely misunderstood. That does happen. The existence of a superior being. Yeah. Superior, supernatural, divine, otherly. Pick whatever word. That's why I used multiple words. It seems like there is something intelligent to it all. I like to believe that. I'd like to believe that too, personally. But that's not quite evidence. It seems like it's something. We don't have another explanation. Therefore, God, that's not quite how it works. And I can understand the attraction to that as an answer. I definitely can. And it kind of makes sense, but it also just doesn't make sense. It's just not how logic and reason and science work or should work. It's not how we should operate under problem solving. Real science cannot omit a superior being. Yeah, true. And I didn't either. Did I say something contrary to that? Did I say anything contrary to that? Science isn't omitting it. I'm not omitting it. We just don't have any evidence for it. Just don't have any solid reason to believe. So it's not off the table. We just don't really have anything to play with when it comes to it. I agree with you. I can only speak from my experience. And that's how a lot of people are, just their personal experience and whatnot. I always just say there are people who have claimed to have had experiences with God, Allah, Vishnu, this pagan deity, their own personal deity, whatever else. And it's a matter of all these people interacting with all these very different gods. Some of them not completely different, but all these different gods, being told different things, having different experiences. Some of them even claiming to have experiences with the same God. Many people have claimed to have experience with the Christian God, and he's told them things that are different from other people who have claimed to have experiences. So it's just not really reliable. It's not really reliable. It's something to take into account, and I do, but just doesn't really quite get us there. And I don't think you were trying to get us there. I think you were just I wasn't like putting you on blast or anything. I don't think you were trying to use that as like scientific evidence. Yeah. More on the stream title. In Romans 5:17-18, it could be thought that Jesus is way too powerful for everyone not to be saved, no matter what. Death in Adam, life in Christ. It sounds like I'm good, but do I have to go to heaven and like bow down and worship at his feet for the rest of my existence, for the rest of eternity? That doesn't sound fun, you know? Like, it still kind of sounds like a bad end. Sure, yeah, I mean, it's probably better than like, you know, being tortured for all of eternity, but like, is there another option, you know? You say logic doesn't work that way, but that something started all this more logic. I'm sorry. You say logic doesn't work that way, but that something started all this is more logical than it's just the way it works, which means nothing. It is the way it works. We just don't know why or all the intricacies. That's the thing. And we don't know, and we have no real reason to claim that some kind of superior being, supernatural, superior, divine being caused it. God might be the energy of creation, and we all just choose the story that makes us feel good. Maybe. Revelation is barely canonical. I don't think it would be that way. All the gold stuff isn't what people think it's also. Yeah. My punctuation sucks. Oh, don't worry about it. I've seen way worse in these chats. Don't worry about it. I try to like fill in, because nobody types perfectly. I try to fill in the best as I can of like what I think people are trying to say and stuff. But sometimes I fail at that. So, you know, I try to cover for people, but it doesn't always work. But yeah, I mean, hell, Revelation, it's a little bit better. You know, people are walking around in streets of gold and shit. You know, that's not too bad. You know, I mean, a little bit more freedom walking around, not having to like bow. You know, I mean, if we have like a bow schedule, you know, I might be on board with it. Like, yeah, we bow, you know, at this time of day, even though it's always day, and you know, time doesn't work in the New Jerusalem. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Some kind of, I don't know. Can you put a schedule on eternity? I don't think that's gonna work. But you know, I'm just like, I'll bow when I walk past him or whatever. Just avoid that particular block of the street, I guess. As something caused it makes sense. No other explanation out there. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Something happened. To skip a lot of steps and to oversimplify it. Something happened and now we're here. Something got everything started. Or, you know, maybe it was always here or whatever. I don't know. But, you know, I'm fine with, you know, this like domino effect theory. We just don't know what that something is. And with no real understanding of what it is, it would be intellectually irresponsible to just say, oh, therefore it must be this God being that we don't have evidence for. That's the problem. And I get it. You know, it's crazy. You know, what is all of this? Why does all this work this way? You know, what's physics? What's gravity? Like, I get it. It's fucking weird. It's crazy, and it's something grand. But I'm just not ready to give up, you know, thinking and trying to find an explanation and just say, it must have been some magical thing. It had to have been some kind of superior being. You know, just close the book. You know, that's what it was. You know, I'm not quite ready to just settle on something that I don't really have evidence of. Magnets, how does that? Magnets! Magnets! How does that work? Fucking, I watched a short from Neil deGrasse Tyson. All compasses point north, but like opposites attract. And I'm explaining it poorly, but like basically like a north, the part in the magnet that points to the north wouldn't be pointed at the magnetic North Pole. So like the magnetic South Pole is really the North Pole, and the magnetic North Pole is really the South Pole. Because that's how a magnet would work. Because a magnet, I guess the positive magnet wouldn't point to like positive on top. I think I butchered all of that. You should absolutely go look up Neil deGrasse Tyson and listen to him on pretty much anything. You don't have to believe everything he says, but like listen to him on pretty much everything. See what he has to say. Definitely more intelligent than me. There's stuff on my mouse pad because I'm a gross human being. But no, I absolutely get the wonder. I absolutely get the what the heck are we looking at? How does this work this way? I absolutely get it. Leaf falls from a tree. If we know forces being exerted on it, we could know its trajectory, the time it took to get to the ground, and exactly where it should land. We should not be able to do all of that. Yeah, we can. It's fine that we can do all of that because the universe does work a certain way. There are laws, and they're not laws in that the universe has to operate a certain way. It's just laws in the way that the universe does operate a certain way, and these laws and these mathematics are our best attempt to understand how it works. So if we've discovered enough of how it works to be able to calculate something like that, that's perfectly fine. And I don't think that's something that we shouldn't be able to do because there are constants in the universe. The universe isn't random. It works a certain way, I think I might agree. I was making an ICP reference to their song Miracles. So loved how you just went deeply into that. Well, yeah, I like going deeply into this stuff. It's funny at work. Someone will ask me a simple question, and I'll give them like a 5-minute explanation that nobody fucking asked for. Just completely dissecting, breaking down, and turning like every aspect of what they asked me around to give them like a thorough, in-depth answer. It's just like, buddy, I just asked what color what color toothbrush is best or whatever, like they ask like the simplest things and they unlock like a 5-minute can of worms. I think it's my ADHD, just a very analytical mind. And it's not necessarily say intelligent, it's just I have a mind that likes to grab things and just look all around and pick it apart and turn it inside out and analyze it. What if random isn't random? What if random isn't random? Who's to say? Because at the end of the day, we really don't know too much of anything about the universe and how it works. We really don't. We don't know what all is at the bottom of our ocean. We haven't even finished exploring all the secrets of our own planet. So, there's that. I'd be terrified if I thought this was all designed. The possibility of an afterlife governed by a creator twisted enough to have made the universe on purpose, nightmare fuel. Perhaps. I would definitely have questions. If there was any God being out there, I would, if I pass away and I'm met with said God being, at the end of my life, I would definitely have questions. Smokey, are you coming in around? I would definitely have questions. Just like, hey man, like, cancer in children, you know? Like, what's that all about? What'd you do that for, you know? And what's with all these, like, natural disaster things that are, like, constantly killing people? Because, like, there's some stuff that you can blame on, like, human free will and fallen nature and whatnot, but, like, why did Florida get hit by, like, a dozen hurricanes last year? Just like, did you just kind of feel extra salty about Florida that year? It's like, what did we, you know, just, and all these children dying of cancer? It's just like, is that necessary? Yeah, it's like, did we need? I would have questions. I would have questions, you know, not necessarily in a disrespecting way. Just like, hey, help me understand, like, what you're doing here. Random is just a necessary word in our language, perhaps. Smoky, smoky. Kitten. I mean, all words are just words at the end of the day. All words are just kind of things that we made up to try to understand and communicate. Because it's a peninsula, the Florida man does need to be nerfed constantly. Maybe. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's like, I would have questions. I would have questions. Even like the Christian God. I've spoken at length about my issues with Christianity and the God of Christianity and the God in the Bible. But even that God, if I died one day and I came face to face with him, I'd just be like, hey, can I just ask you some questions? Maybe I got it all wrong, you know. Maybe this is just my lack of understanding, but like flooding the earth, just like, was that, how necessary was that? God is supposed to fix everything? Then we just be toys, no purpose robots. God is supposed to fix everything. I mean, I'm not saying he needs to fix everything. I'm just saying, like, why do children have cancer? And I don't think if he fixed everything, we would just be toys or, you know, no purpose robots. I don't really know if I agree with that. Especially if you look, yes, kitten. Especially if you look in the book of Revelations. You know, in the New Jerusalem, everyone has free will and they're allowed to, like, exist and be fine, and everything, all the problems have been solved, and it's great. So, like, God can create a world like that. He just kind of didn't yet. God can also do, like, anything. So, like, yeah, he could. And you could do it without us just being soulless automatons. I like words. I like learning new words and expanding vocabulary. It just gives you a better way of explaining things.
Yeah.
I mean, the blood myth was trending in ancient Mesoland way before that one version of it. Oh, yeah. Kitten. Sneakers. Just a happy kidding. Oh, the flood thing, yeah. Kitten. Yeah, the flood is the one that was passed around a bit. Big car, yes. Kitten. Snickers. Hi. Yeah, I got some big kitties. It's okay. They're full of love. Are you full of love? Are you full of love?
She sometimes sounds like she's full of sass.
Yeah. Can I pick up the kid? That's okay. I know you don't like being picked up, but I'll at least pet you. I know you like being pet. Many in my family have died of cancer. God didn't square it with me guess I'll give him a piece of my mind. Tell him he should listen to me. Just ask. I'm not saying, nowhere in that explanation did I say I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. I just have questions. And I think, as, one of the humans in his fucking sandbox, I think I have the right to just be a little bit curious and just be like, hey, Mr. God, sir, just have a couple questions. Hell and Earth are like, ugh, get here. Hell and Earth are in the same realm, maybe just different floors. Maybe. Hello. You should watch The Case for Christ, by former atheist Lee Strobel. No. I don't think I will. I probably will at some point, but I don't think I will. Because I read the book, and it's garbage, and I hate it. And I'm going to torture myself again, because this year, for Christmas, I got A Case for Faith as well. So I need to read that as well at some point. But yeah, it's going to be fun. Death is nothing more than another cycle of life. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? There's a lot of unknowns. And I like sitting here and playing with ideas as much as the next person. But, how do we know at the end of the day? How do we know who's right? If anyone. How about I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Frank Turek? I didn't know that was a book. I'm familiar with the quote, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. People will say all the time, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Because saying I don't have enough faith to do something that requires absolutely zero faith is silly to me. I don't think we go to hell where demons are at. We reincarnate. I'd vibe with reincarnation. I kind of hope that's like the thing, like we reincarnate. I'd kind of be down for it. Not gonna lie. Creation is proof of a creator. How do you know it's a creation? And therefore that it was created? Yes, I have the questions too. It's just normal, sure. But there's no way I can compare my human brain with whatever it is that started all of this. Well, I agree. But I feel like after we die, we would be able to be a little bit closer, not really human brains, to help us kind of better understand things. Like after we die, we might be able to understand it better. Because it had a beginning. Everything that has a beginning must have had a cause. Sure. I can agree with that. But we don't know what that cause is. See, the thing is, you're getting into the every painting has a painter, every building has a builder type mindset. And with things like that, like a painting, we know how paintings work. We know how they come into being. We know that there's a painter. We can examine the entire process, start to finish, of painter, painting, done. We can't do that with all of creation, or with all of existence, or however we like to know. We just have it here. We've never seen this God being. We've certainly never seen him create a universe. So it's not comparable. Well, it has to be timeless. I mean, I didn't say that. Reincarnation is fine for people that had past lives that lived justly. I don't believe in it, but it comes up a lot with people that do. Reincarnation is fine for people that had past lives that lived justly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of like the idea. I have an ingrown hair that's been bothering me for weeks, and I haven't been able to get it. Sorry, distraction. There's a whole scientific journal that creates a really great dissertation when it comes to reincarnation. It's called integral reality. That does sound interesting. God is tricky. He has no beginning and no end. Sure. I just kind of want to understand it. And spaceless, impersonal to decide, to create, and powerful to create also. All these describe the God of the Bible. I think that the universe was pooped out by a giant rainbow space cat during the intergalactic laser wars of Stardate E370 in hopes that we would become the next prime species rising out of the ashes of a war-torn multiverse. My space cat has the attributes to create a universe. Therefore, he fits the description and we should believe in the space cat. Don't eat that. It's bad for you. What's my evidence of the space cat? About as much as the evidence for your God.
Belief.
Because we can come up with stuff. And that's fine. You know, we can come up with whatever explanations we want. They can work. And there's volumes and volumes and volumes of books about different mythological beings that have been thought of throughout human history to explain things, to explain the way things work. But that doesn't mean that those things are contingent on those beings existing. That doesn't necessarily mean, the changing of seasons doesn't mean that Persephone exists. It's just not how it works. Jesus Christ was a real historical person, though. I have no issue with the idea that a dude existed, made some claims, gained a following, and got executed. I'm fine with that. I'm not really going to combat you on Jesus' existence, but his divinity, his supernaturalness, we have nothing for. Why do you have a timer? Oh, nice. It's more, the Bible describes the God of everything to a degree, not to its totality. Maybe. Jesus is real, sure. The Bible is only a map with a degree of detail. Maybe. Historical doesn't equal godhood. Yeah. The prophecy is here in the end. Everything will come to light. Sure. He resurrected from the grave was a historical event, not really historically documented or verified. Jesus was a real dude. He did, in fact, connect to what... I can't read, I'm so sorry. Jesus was a real dude. He did, in fact, connect to what Masons call the unspeakable absolute, the ineffable. Sure. I see you fast on my home. I don't know what that means. It was the Gospels are historically reliable. No, they're not. I'm sorry. The Gospels are claims that have not been properly verified. Sorry, my cat's one out. The unspeakable absolute is awesome, so sure. I don't know. See, we've all got ideas on how things got here, on who Jesus was, on who God is, about the supernatural nature of the universe, all this stuff. But who's to really say? I'm sorry. Jesus see this time before 2000 old. What? Fast news. I don't know what you're saying, buddy. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Even if he was raised from the dead, that also doesn't equal godhood, maybe divinity. Yeah, even if he did raise from the dead, even if he did do miracles, it doesn't mean that everything in the Bible has to be true, or everything about, his supposed divinity has to be true. Something weird happened. Yeah, if a dude raised from the dead, yeah, that's kind of weird. Something happened, but we can't just then jump to all the conclusions and say, oh, well, this says that it was, this, so it must be this. We still... We need more evidence. We need to dig in. We need to prove and demonstrate and evaluate every step of the way. We can't take shortcuts and leaps. That's just not how things work. The apostles had to change some things up for whatever reason. Who knows why? people change who they are all the time for different religious beliefs or different people or whatever. Vasu's internet screen, in the end, everything will come to light. Sure. I'm Jewish, so I probably don't agree about Jesus. That's fine. I don't really agree about him either, and I'm atheist. You just gotta seek truth for yourself without help. How do you know when you found it? Knowledge and understanding are different concepts. I agree with that. But who's to say what truth is? Because there are, objective truths to the universe. We just don't know all of them. And that's not to say, it therefore can't be, a God. It could be for all I know. I have no idea, but I'm not ready to settle on something if we have no reason to believe that that's definitively what it is. I did prove Maimonides, I don't know what that is. Apophatic, I'm not smart enough for these words, construction of GD, aka so the kernel of classical logical worlds. Cool. That's probably a lot more impressive to someone who's smarter than me and can, really understand what that means. Truth is impossible to describe linguistically, literally impossible. Maybe. I was trying to, though I was just doing math. Do what you can. What could happen to you in the future? What could happen to you in the future? Like Antichrist taking over the world, or you having to get the marks of the beast? What would get you to relent and believe Jesus Christ is God? I have no idea, especially when throughout history, since Christianity began, generation after generation has said, oh, these are the signs of the end times. These are those signs of the end times. This is the mark of the beast. This guy's the Antichrist. We're the last generation. And then the next generation did the same thing. I'm only 28 years old. And I've seen so many different people saying different things like, oh, that guy's the Antichrist. Oh, no, he wasn't the Antichrist. No, this guy's the Antichrist. Oh, no, that wasn't the Antichrist. No, this is the mark of the beast. So what is the mark of the beast? That's the problem with end-time prophecies. They're way too broad and open to interpretation, and we've been trying it for 2,000 years and still, are here. As far as broadly, what would it take for me to believe in Jesus Christ as God? I don't know. I have no idea. But a triomni God, as described in the Bible, an all-knowing God, would know what it would take to convince me that he's real. An all-powerful God would be able to do what it takes to convince me that he's real. And an all-loving God, who supposedly wants a relationship and a connection with me and wants to save me from the fires of hell, would be willing to do what it takes to convince me, especially when I'm sitting here asking, practically begging for answers, something, searching to the best of my ability with as open mind and heart as I can, and still with nothing. So the ball's kind of in his court. I'm going to be honest with you. Any form of language is a lie in a way. If I told you the truth, it would be lie, and truth is real. It's like the ultimate philosophical paradox. It's not for the faint of heart. It's hardcore. I believe you. I'll tell you. Okay, tell me. The Jews did not believe in Christ, especially the religious leaders translated the records from God as they wanted. Christ did not fight the Romans. Yeah? Sure, seems like it. I don't know. You gotta know what love is in the first place, though. What is love? Love's one of those things where it's like damn near possible to explain. The habituation to that's a lot of words, and it's not addressed to me anyway, so I think I'll leave it. Great question. Yeah. The third Jewish temple being built in Jerusalem would be another big sign of Jesus' return. The third Jewish temple being built in Jerusalem would be another big sign of Jesus' return. See, an impressive prophecy would have to be something that can't just be fulfilled by somebody just building something. It would have to be something a little bit more impressive than that, because then anyone could do it. You know? It's a feeling literally in the heart. I don't really think the heart feels things. The Antichrist is a theme in 1 John and 2 John. Those two books were not written by Paul and were forgeries. I mean, who's to say what was written by what in the Bible? Sorry, now you're okay. The problem in today is religion leaders hide the truth of the God. Sure. Luke 11:52. What is? Go ahead and put 11:52 in the chat, because I don't want to look it up. And you haven't felt love, brother. It doesn't mean you're evil, though. I just think that love happens in the brain, and we feel it elsewhere because the brain sends signals. But the heart pumps blood. It doesn't There's nothing going there as far as intellect and emotions. There's a Jewish prayer for atheists. Nice. It's like Christianity. There's a prayer for anything. And if there's not, you can make one up. And that's not to say things are made up. Literally, if you need a prayer, just pray for the thing. You can literally come up with a prayer on the spot. And it still be valid. Attachment happens in the brain. Okay. Oxytocin is simply a mammalian attachment. Okay. What kind of God are you putting me in a universe? What kind of God are you putting me in a universe where you don't exist? It's a good question. I mean, it's making some assumptions, but it's interesting to think about. But it would make sense if we got put in a universe where God doesn't exist, if a God doesn't exist. Oh, that's the Jewish prayer for atheists. Oh, I'm sorry. Still, I don't really agree with it, but nice and simple. I can respect that. Everything, goodness me, it's bedtime. Every relationship you have usually began with an initial trusting, and then continuously trusting more. To begin a real relationship with Jesus Christ, it first comes down to initial trust in Him. I don't have any reason to believe He's real. It's Fiddler on the Roof style humor. I love that YouTube grabbed that. YouTube filtered that because it says Fiddler, so YouTube filtered it and asked me to review it before it was passed. Deep down you do? Do I? It's easy to find which books in the New Testament were truly written by an author we can pin down. Some of Paul's works are only ones truly recognized by most scholars. Yeah, I think Paul is really of the New Testament, he's probably the one that a lot of scholars are most convinced was an actual guy who did some things and was prominent in the early church and probably wrote some things. I am probably going to end the live stream soon. Just a heads up, a warning. Get some food and go to sleep. Will you be upset if heaven and hell is real and you missed out? Frankly, I think heaven and hell are both, as described in Christianity, shitty options. And I went into that earlier in this live, and I'm not going to try to go into it again at the end, but it'd kind of suck if that was the system set up. It's love me, and follow me and bow down and worship me and kiss my feet, and you'll get to come to like this fun paradise where you can love me and bow down to me and kiss my feet forever, or burn in hell for all of eternity. It's kind of fucked, personally. Anyway, you might like the book Nefesh. Maybe I will. I'll take a picture of it. The other were... My screenshot's in the way. There you go. The other were anonymous forgeries, or in one case, just a different no guy. Revelation was written by a John, just a different John than Christians think. Yeah. Actually, spending eternity with your Creator is awesome. Have a nice night. To each their own, you know. Obviously, some people are down with the idea of the Christian afterlife. Some people are down with the idea of the Hindu afterlife. Some people are down with the idea of the Muslim afterlife. Some people are down with the idea of not an afterlife and just like ceasing to exist. You know, I guess to each their own. Night and day outside in the dirt, mud, salty seas, cells are made, reproduce zillions of times on their own. We can't deliberately create the simplest single cell in the best labs man can make. I'm sorry if we can't replicate complex processes that took hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of years in, what are you looking for? Like 5 years in a laboratory? Sorry if we're just kind of limited in that sense. If there's video games in heaven, I'm game. Maybe. In the end, our reality will be our reality. We just don't know what that reality is going to end up being. But I do think I'm going to end the live stream there. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and talking. You guys brought up some good points in chat. We had some good conversations. And chat was active, even though we didn't have a whole lot of people here. Chat was very active. You guys carried this live stream, so thank you for that. I'm always appreciative, and I say this at the end of every video, and I know it kind of gets repetitive, but I mean it, so I want to say it at the end of the video. I'm always appreciative when anyone stops and watches my live streams for even a second. I'm a random nobody on the internet. I don't necessarily deserve any kind of anything. So the fact that people don't just scroll past, the fact that there are people who are sit and talk and maybe just watch silently in the background, like and subscribe or whatever, stick around for, come back for more streams in the future, it means a lot, and I greatly appreciate it. So thank you all so much for being here, and I hope you have, everyone who's watching this live or watching it in the video recording later, has an amazing rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching this, and hope to see you